drug. Hope is a hell of a drug.
Hope is a hell of a drug.
Yeah, hope will influence your curiosity. It'll jumpstart so many other positive emotions that need to be in place of the negative ones, you know? And a lot of the time you need hope to realize that there's a different way to see it, you know? So
there's a different perspective.
It's a completely different perspective, you know?
I see that.
So, yeah, man. All right, what we talk about today?
Heathen Radio.
Yes, sir.
My name is Andrew. I'm 34 years old. I'm a member of the Mount Pisgah Seventh-Day Adventist Church in Miami Gardens, Florida. I am here with my co-host, Matt. As usual.
Matt,
how you doing, bro?
That dog, that boy.
That dog.
Yeah, it's your boy, Matt, 34 years
That's
old,
funny,
member
bro.
of Mount the SDA Church in Miami Gardens, Florida. And we are here today to talk about
Digital Seventh-Day Adventism.
Digital Seventh-Day Adventism. Okay.
I call them D.Sdas. That's a term.
We're here to talk about YouTube SDA Church.
YouTube SDA.
Location global, right.
And we mentioned this, I think, in one of the first episodes that we talked about. We touched on this slightly, that like how attendance has changed.
Yeah.
I guess I say changed because it's definitely not in person anymore, but I don't know if that necessarily means that the attendance has changed. Because I'm gonna look up Pisgah right now and see what their last live stream, what the numbers we're looking at for their last live stream. But I'm gonna speculate that they had they've got more views now than people who were in the congregation when it actually aired live.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, we all have our church that we tune in every Sabbath for on YouTube, you know, like, I mean, COVID was just like, COVID changed everything, man. And I think we're starting to see the positive effects of COVID now, you know, like a lot of these churches not putting effort into their live stream, you know, like we could talk about that, like before COVID, 2019 and pre-COVID, some of these churches barely had a thriving live stream, you know. They barely live streamed and then you know the audio was bad. You could only hear one of the people on the praise team. Couldn't hear
the hardware was definitely
not
not
the pastor's
top
mic
notch,
was
bro.
turned all the way on 12.
Definitely not top.
While the praise team was on 4, you had to jump and catch your remote quick to turn it down before you deafen yourself, bro. Like the live streams were definitely not the quality we're seeing in today's day and age. And you could even argue that there's more people watching the live stream. Like, look at this, 40.
Yeah, I'm looking at this right now. The most 43K. Recent 42K, but 42K, then it goes down to 1K, 1.6, 876 views for one that was happening 3 weeks ago, 851. So. You know, but I mean, truthfully, when was the last time you saw a church with 1,000 people?
Yeah, you want 1,000 people is crazy. You really think about it. Yeah, like 1,000 people in a church already is like unbelievable.
It's sitting around anywhere from 1K to almost 10K views.
It's unbelievable to see a church with 1K people in it.
There's no way a church nowadays would have 1,000 people.
Not even possible, right? Like you're barely fitting. Even the 200-300 people churches had issues fitting the people in the building.
42K? Are you kidding me, bro?
42K is crazy, man. Yeah, but this just shows to the effectiveness of the YouTube ministry, man.
Yeah,
that I'm glad these churches are starting to put effort into. You know, like the AV team.
And I gotta say, Pisgah's got a nice their stage setup is real nice.
Their setup is crazy, man. Shout out to Jason.
Real nice.
Jason's one of the people in the I'm actually really close with a couple of people on Mount Pisgah's AV team, and they go to work, man. They've actually asked me to come and help them. Like, well, a guy that I know, he's a kid though. He's a younger dude. His name is Jason, bro.
Do it, bro.
His name is Jason, man. He's been like, yo, you need to join the winning team, man. He always telling me
they kind of winning now.
Nah, because they got a really good media department. They're on top of it. They have multiple camera angles.
That's true.
Their audio is pretty good, like good lighting, like. You could tell that they put a lot of effort into their live stream, and I think
they go in industry standard, bro.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's the standard nowadays. Like, if you don't have a decent live stream, people might not even come to your church in person if they don't see the live stream and it's not decent, which is crazy because it used to be the other way around. You used to go in church and when you couldn't make it, you watch a live stream. I feel like it's almost the opposite of that now.
We used to record them. We used to do audio recordings.
Yeah,
burn the CDs.
I feel like we're watching YouTube sermons and saying, "Oh, he's pretty good. I'm gonna go to that church next week." You know. Or, praise team's pretty good. I want to go see it live next week. You know, I think we're doing it backwards now compared to what we did back in the day. So I think it's a good shift though. I think it's a good shift because I think people are finding like minds in different congregations that they may not have had time to go to in person. And this is gonna be controversial, man.
Go for it. Let it fly.
I'm a firm believer of church hopping. I'm a firm believer of church. People are like, you can't do that, man. Why not?
Watch me.
I am a firm believer of church hop. How you gonna know what church is for you if you in church hop a little bit?
That's a good point.
A lot of people are miserable in their home church that they grew up and born and raised in. Their parents went there, whatever. You don't even like that church no more, man. You don't even like
Why
that
are you
church
even
no
going
more.
there?
Why are you even going there? Like, I think YouTube is a beautiful way to see a different congregation. Even if you're looking at last week's sermon, last week's, like you could see everything. You could see members come up, sing. And you could see what kind of people are in this building. And I think you could kind of make a calculated decision based on if you want to go there next Sabbath, based on just YouTube. Just YouTube research will get you enough information to tell you if this is a place for you or not. Because not every church is for everybody. And I think YouTube has made it a lot easier to church hop than getting up and getting in your car.
If you time it right, you can start on the East Coast. You can do one like Tom Joyner. Start on the East Coast and then move out to the West Coast and get that sermon too.
Animal. Sabbath morning, you come catch me at 10 o'clock. I'm on my phone going through 5 or 6 different churches. Like I'm in London looking at church. I'm in like Africa. I'm following my time zone. I think 2 weeks ago I was watching the Philippines with my mom. I think Manila or something. I don't know. We were just like, and then they spoke. I think some pieces of the sermon were in English, but then like I think we realized most of it wasn't. I think it was like I don't know. But yeah, I was in Manila the other day. We go to Africa. Like it's a beautiful thing that you can kind of find this culture all over the world. Of course, we can all tell you, and I don't gotta say it out loud. It's not the same as going in person.
No,
like we know that.
No,
like, that's not. Nothing beats going in person because remember,
it's more convenient.
It's more convenient, and I think convenience does speak volumes to people that have low investment. That have low investment. Like we can't argue that
low investment or low means.
Low means,
like,
low resources.
If you ain't got a car,
maybe you ain't got no car. You know what I'm saying? Like it can reach a lot more people in their pocket in their phone. And on their TVs in their homes than if somebody expecting somebody to pull up to a building every day.
Well, the reach is further too. I mean,
reach is huge.
This Pisgah YouTube live streams are going about at minimum 800 people.
Yeah.
At minimum, not people, 800 views. At minimum, 800 views. But I mean, like there's no way that without YouTube that they would have reached 800 people.
Right.
There's no way.
Right.
Like even with the congregation, there's probably maybe 100, 200 people in the congregation tops maybe.
Right, exactly.
Like that's a 4x reach.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Like there's so the reach is wider digitally.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And it's if the purpose is to reach as wide of an audience as possible, why not support digital? I mean, why not support digital? Yeah. And I'm gonna go a step further. Why not just turn the church into a studio?
I mean that's an argument that I don't think I'd ever agree with, to be honest with you.
Why not?
I think there's as I said, my personal experience, the ministry is with the people in the church. Like the Christ's light shines through the people in my experience. Like and it's funny because I think people aren't people anymore. Like people don't really like people like that no more. Like
I'll agree with that.
They pick the 2-3 people.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah, like people don't like strangers. People don't like talking to people. Like it's just like. But I think that community, putting everybody in the same building, it's a lot more magical than what we believe to be. Like sitting in your home watching YouTube by yourself, like on a TV, is depressing.
Well, it doesn't have to be I disagree, but it doesn't have to be. I'm not saying a closed studio. I'm saying like a live studio audience type of thing.
Okay, right. And I think that's kind of what church is at this point. It's a live studio audience. It's really what it is.
To that,
that's really what it is. It's like Price is Right at this point, dog. Like it's like
this is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
I mean, and low key, if you look at the numbers, that's kind of what it is because there's definitely more people watching online than you have people watching in person.
Oh yeah.
So you could even argue that church is already a live studio audience. It's already technically a live studio audience.
They're acting like a live studio audience, but they're not thinking like a live studio audience. They're not thinking like the church is a studio set. They're thinking that it's still like I'm gonna say a tabernacle, but like you can be both. I think. I'm
gonna be honest. I think the church is doing both. I mean, the only thing that'll make it more studio like is to do what, multiple takes. Like, what do you want? Like, what do you want? Like plan things for the camera. Like what would you want more to make it more studio vibe?
Well, I'm using Pisgah as an example, but I think that they've already got it. They've already made it. And then the other church that I'm thinking about, I guess, would be like I'm thinking of Pioneer Memorial at Andrews University. Okay. They're kind of like that too. Yeah. I haven't seen one of their live streams in a while, but I'm pretty sure that they probably got the same.
You know who's actually done a really good job at this? Oakwood has actually done a really good job. Oakwood University Church they've actually gotten to a point where, you know, there's usually a countdown for the sermon and everything, or a countdown for the service and everything. They have a pre-game like analysis, a pre-Sabbath analysis.
Scheduled live streams coming up.
Yeah, they schedule them like I think there's a lot of churches out there that they're putting. I think, as I said, I think church now is definitely more of a live studio audience, like, than it is an actual like online like in person thing. I think the people in the church are really just there as a live studio audience, and the people, and there's like usually 8 or 9 times more people watching online. You know, like you look at these numbers, you're at least 1,000, at least 1,000 you're gonna get. You know?
Most, I mean, I'm seeing up to 18K.
Yeah, you got 28K up there, like, you know, like there's definitely more people watching online than in person at this point. And remember, this thing is discounting views after the fact, after the sermon is already done and they cut the lights off. You can watch this anytime, 24/7. It's just the level of convenience is unmatched to showing up in person at church on Saturday morning.
But it sounds like you think that we've lost something by doing this.
We're losing the human connection. I do believe that we're losing the human connection. I think that's the part of the church that I think we're losing. I do think genuinely that putting it online 100% is not reasonable. Like, okay, we had a church down here that's what it was. It was the pastor in a room by himself doing the sermon, by the way. Like the song service.
That's not a studio.
Well, he had a green screen behind him.
He had a green screen behind him. I suppose it is.
He had a green screen behind him, and like, you know what they did?
When I think of studio, I'm thinking like a studio set. Well, I guess that could be in your own place.
I do think that most of these churches are a studio set. They have lights. They have a background that's, you know, appealing for camera. They have speaker setups. They have audio. Cameras double as studios since COVID. Like, we know that. Like,
I mean, you're right.
But
I don't know. It still it feels like there's something missing from most of them. And I think that P.S.Da has it, which is partially why
what is it?
Why I align with. I don't know. I'm trying to talk through it now. Of like, what is it that they're actually missing? Because it still, in my mind, there's 2 different types of feeling. There's the new type of sanctuary, which is like which is optimized for live stream digital content, but also keeps the same retains the same amount of personality, I guess. Okay.
Yeah.
But then I think about, like, before any of this came along and before there was any video or anything like that, it's like the feeling of the sanctuary was more I want to say sanctified almost. It feels like there's a like it lost, like, by going digitally, it lost some of the
human experience.
Maybe that's what it is.
It's a human experience, man.
Maybe that's what it is.
And I'm gonna tell you something that doesn't translate. I feel like doesn't translate well over like live streams on YouTube is the song service. A lot of the time, we're not typing in concert full live stream. Like nobody wants to watch a concert from their bedroom on YouTube.
You want to be that. You want to be there,
right? Live. And I think that's the live music that you get in church is definitely not translated well over YouTube. I mean, even sometimes the mics are perfect and all that, but like a lot of the time they're not. You know, sounds not EQ'd properly.
I could take it.
You might not be able to hear the bass guitar, whatever. You know, like I think that's something that doesn't translate to me. Like I think I want to go hear that music live.
Yeah, I could leave that.
I want to hear that music live. I want to hear the guitars and the drummers and the singers. I want to hear them live.
Yeah,
I don't really want
to
hear
the resonance is different as you're in it.
I don't want to hear this
person. I agree.
Yeah, I'm not trying to really hear that.
But like I said before, when it came to our music episode, I don't really catch the spirit from,
which is crazy. I don't even want you to finish that sentence. You're crazy.
I don't even. It doesn't.
You're a madman.
It don't challenge me.
That actually puts me in a state of mind to accept the rest of the message. I'm glad they do it in that order because I would love to. If they did the music at the end, I don't even think I'd be in the right state of mind to receive the message. To be honest with you,
it doesn't challenge me, bro. Like I kind of want to be challenged when I come into church. I want to hear something that's like, oh, you thought you knew this part? Let me break some of this knowledge on you and tell you what this is really about. But I don't know that most pastors can get that deep, especially when you're doing a new sermon every week. Like you can't. I mean, I don't even know if I expect a pastor to deep dive every week on because that seems a little bit unreasonable to me. Even though that's what I want.
I mean, look, man. Like during, excuse me, during COVID, man, a lot of live streams are reusing and recycling like content.
That's true.
Weeks before, I remember seeing churches like put previously recorded on the praise and worship and reuse the praise and worship. You know, because they don't want all those people to come in and catch COVID. You know, potentially. So I can name churches right now that they had pre-recorded praise and worship, and the pastor would come in and do a sermon, and then everybody would go home, and that was it. Like that was it. And you know, we had the spaced out pews where you skip a pew, next pew, skip a pew, next pew. Everybody was social distance, even in the pews. People were 6 feet apart. Man, this is a wild time. I'm always curious.
Wasn't it a wild time, bro?
I'm always curious if we're gonna see something like that in our generation again, man.
No,
I remember
it's not gonna happen again.
I remember they used to have to make a reservation to go to church, man. It was like,
yo.
I remember at my local church, which was crazy to me, you used to have to like sign up and have a reservation to go to church, and I had a capacity. So if you didn't sign up quick enough,
too late.
Sorry. And it's funny. I remember they were
gotta get on the guest list to get it.
Bro, they were doing it at my grandpa's church too, and I remember my grandpa was on it. You know, cause he trying to go to his church. He ain't playing. So I remember he was always on first to sign up on the list to do the reservations for church.
Yo.
And I thought like, man, like imagine if this stayed like this. Like imagine this would be the wildest thing ever. Like just imagine
you want to go to church, you got to be on a guest list.
That defeated the
Bouncers
whole purpose
in the front,
of church. Like
velvet ropes.
Bro, the power of you being able to get a message from some place you never heard before.
That's wild.
You're in a city you never been to, and you don't know what church you want to go to, and you decide last minute, yeah, I'm gonna go to church. It's 11 in the morning, and you drive somewhere, and they're like,
sorry, guest list full.
Guest list full. That is the wildest scenario in my head. That defeats the entire purpose of church, yo. Like, so like COVID was a strange time, and it kind of showed you what the priorities were as far as like, you know, just everything, man. Like, you know, people weren't, as I said, churches weren't prioritizing their live streams.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was churches that was having church in the parking lot, bro. You remember
man.
that?
Yeah. And they weren't even saying that, man. There was honking horns.
Beep, beep.
Yeah, bro. That, like, yo, in Orlando, yeah, man. They had drive-in, like how you have a drive-in theater. They had drive-in
church, bro. I remember them days.
They would have, and I remember, it was, the pastor would be on YouTube, so a lot of people pull up. And this is the ironic part. They will pull up in their car and take out their phone and play it on YouTube in the car, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think
but then there was a lag, I think, or something.
Yeah,
or was it a radio
station? But I think that they had it. They had like a radio.
It was a radio transmission
that would actually you could change your
right. So exactly like a drive-in movie theater, then, right? You had a radio transmission. It would be synced up with the pastor doing a message.
Yo.
And the pastor would have loudspeakers, so if you were close enough to the pastor, you could wind your window down and just hear the sermon.
Those days were wild, bro.
That was that was
outside
crazy.
Church outside.
I remember why I've never been to it in person, but I watched it on YouTube, and I was like, "This is different." People honking.
My mother went a couple different times, and it's funny because when that happened, I was like, "Yo, they're not even using these buildings." They're not even using these buildings to have church. Man. Like what? And what does that mean? Like what? Like, and I made this statement while it was happening. I was like, "Yo, they could do this in any parking lot, anywhere. It doesn't even need to be this one church." Like, and like I wasn't even thinking about the money part of it, but like, how much money were them churches losing? Like. You got a mortgage on this building every month, but you ain't been in it for 3.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
Like, you know, and you know, it's. I'll give it. I gotta once again shout out Pisgah because they let you give your tithe digitally.
I mean, if you're a church now and you're not giving people the option to Cash App and Zelle your church, you failed.
You're way behind.
Yeah, you failed. You're way behind. Yeah. Like I think like them kind of churches that they don't want the money at this point. They don't want the offering, bro. Like if you're not opening your.
If I got to give you cash, you don't want my money.
You don't want money. People don't have cash anymore, man. People do not carry cash.
It's all digital.
Everyone knows that. Anybody under the sun, they know that nobody carries cash anymore, man. So I mean, I do like that churches have actually been upgrading their ministry. You know, even a children's story is like, you know, usually like a digital YouTube video at this point. Like it's a cartoon with a bunch of, you know, like Bible characters running around
everything
and stuff.
Moving
like
digital.
Everything. Like YouTube is the king of media in my opinion. More than Netflix, more than TV, more than cable. If you want to see something, you're better off going to YouTube. You know, once it reaches a certain age, you can find it on YouTube anyways.
That's true.
Even if it was on TV or whatever. So it's like these kids are not watching Sesame Street no more. They're not learning from all that. They're learning from YouTube, man. They learning from YouTube. Like everything's on YouTube.
Yeah, and in some ways, it kind of feels as if the church was like very reluctant to move to that, you know, type of new media type of situation.
Yeah,
it was like,
and I think they just valued the traditional experience, which I don't blame them because I think the traditional experience
there's something to be said about it.
Yeah, the traditional experience is mandatory for church. It's mandatory for church. Because there's people you're going to meet in that church through the traditional experience, or you're gonna see God through that.
What is the traditional experience that you're talking about?
I'm talking about getting in your car,
being
going
in
to
person,
church, going to Divine Hour, being in person, actually having to turn to your neighbor when the pastor says turn to your neighbor, and actually saying something to a stranger next to you. Like that experience is unparalleled, man. You don't get that at home. You turn to your neighbor on YouTube and you're looking at your wall. You know what I'm saying? Like you need a human next to you. I don't think people realize the value of human connection in this day and age, and I think that's, if anything COVID took from us, I think that was the one thing. I think people found a way to
devalued the human connection.
Yeah, we devalued the human connection. I think we found a way to do it without talking to anybody. I mean, I'm talking about everything. Getting food, getting spiritual message, getting anything you need. You can get on your phone and type a couple words and have it put up to your door.
You can get anything nowadays without having to talk to anybody.
You don't even leave the house. You go to Amazon, you order it, it comes in 2 hours. Like there's no reason for you to leave your house now. And I think that's kind of messed up people's human experience. It has. It's messed up the life experience, man. We're social creatures, man. We're mammals, and we forget this all the time.
That's true.
We're made to be in buildings with other hundreds of mammals at the same time. Like that's how we are supposed to be living. We're not supposed to be.
I don't know if we need to be in the same building with each other, but we definitely do need. We need other the connection of other humans. I agree with you on that one.
Yes,
I agree with you on that one. But I don't think that I don't think that there's a number that's healthy.
No, I mean, I don't think a number. I mean, where 2 or 3 are gathered. He told you the number. You know what I'm saying? Where 2 or 3 are gathered, but you still need 2 or 3. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if you're watching, and you know what's funny? Because I think the one time where I feel like I'm not like isolated watching church services is when I do it with my family. You know, if I have my mom, my sister, my brother there, you know, we're all watching together. Yeah, watching. You know, we happen to be all at home at the same house, watching. You know, this church on YouTube. It doesn't feel as bad. You know, it feels like, oh well, you know, this is what we'd be doing if we was there. You know, like if we went to church and didn't talk to nobody and came back home, like
we'd be all sitting on the same pew.
We're all sitting on the same couch. You know, this is a very similar experience. It's not that far off from what we would experience at church.
But you're saying it seems to indicate that it's somehow still different, though.
It's still different because you're not getting to say hi to Brother Brown and Sister here and this and can I remember, like, if you're doing church properly, that's also your family. If you're doing church properly, that lady and that guy at the church that you see every Sabbath is also your family. That's the only way to be doing it. Like, if they're not your family and you can't find a fine family at this church, that's not your church. So I'm gonna keep 100. That's not your church.
So is there a healthy level of digital in-person mix, you think? Does that question make sense?
I get it. Like you can do a digital. Like I don't believe church is.
Should it be like 2 in person, 1 digital, 2 in person, 1 digital?
Church should never be a solo experience. You should never be watching church at home by yourself with nobody there. Like even if you gotta FaceTime somebody and say you're gonna watch it with them over FaceTime, that is better. Then I don't know if you remember, we was doing that during COVID. They had a movie sharing app that you could watch a movie along with somebody digitally. You know what I mean? Like, and we did it a couple times with my family. Like, it wasn't the funnest thing, but like, at least it shows you an effort. You know, there's an effort there that you're trying to connect with people, even if it's digitally. You know, but there has to be some kind of people connection with church. It's synonymous. You can't have church without people connection.
It has to be during the divine worship service.
No, and a lot of the time it's not going to be the pastor's preaching. Nobody's going to be talking to each other during the service. But
right, but what I'm saying is that, like, could it be you watch the divine worship service digitally every Sabbath, but you actually go to prayer meeting on Wednesdays? Does that serve the same purpose, or does it have to be divine worship?
No, it doesn't have to be divine worship. I just think that you need to connect with those people in that building. I do think that half of the ministry is connected to the people in the church building. I do believe that you're not going to get a full like ministry, or you're not going to get a full message. Serious. I don't think you're going to get a full message unless you're in the building with the people. because there's experiences in that building and people that have things to tell you that you're not gonna get sitting at home watching YouTube. You're just not gonna get it.
I definitely think that there is a element of being in person.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm abnormal when it comes to this whole situation because I mean, you know, the part of the thing that I'm looking at doesn't necessarily even. I mean, my perspective, like I said, I like to be challenged, and I don't need to be challenged to. I don't need to go to the building to have that. As a matter of fact, it's almost, for me, it's almost better when I can, you know, look up something and you know, like look at it into my study Bible and see what the extra commentary has to say and all that kind of stuff. So yes, I agree with you that there is definitely an element of personability that you don't get digitally, but I think that the reach kind of outweighs that in a sense. You know, like the amount of views and the length that a message can travel is stronger. Is a bigger positive than actually being in person with people in the actual building.
Well, the outreach is definitely a lot more effective because everybody has accessibility to it, so we have to understand that. But as I said, like you're gonna be missing something if you're not in that building, man. And you can't even prepare for what you're gonna see. That's the thing about it. You don't know who you're gonna talk to. You don't know who's gonna be there. You know, you don't know who's missing church today, who came today that never been there before. Like there's just all these unexpected elements. And I think in life in general, this is a rule of thumb that I've always believed in life is you have to be there. And I think I spoke to Drew about this a couple like weeks ago. Like be the where. Like you have to be there to like there's nothing you can predict until you're there. Like you can't like expect like watching a video on YouTube. You could like I can tell you that experience already. You're gonna open your phone. You're gonna go to YouTube. You're gonna type in something. You're gonna play it, and you're not gonna get you might get sidetracked, end up doing something else. Come back to the video, finish it, boom, you're done. You know, you're not gonna run into somebody that you have something in common.
But it
with.
Doesn't move you.
What the YouTube?
The digital experience doesn't move.
Well, no, the message and the music can still be translated through the digital experience. Don't get me wrong, but I think there's a people element that a lot of people fail to acknowledge. That there's people that are in that building that you're meant to run into, that God has ordained and placed them in there for you. And if you fail to go into that building enough, you're not gonna find those people.
Well, I mean, if that's true, then why are we even doing things digitally?
Well, we're doing it digitally, and that's the thing. I think we were forced. I think COVID became a thing where remember a lot of these churches didn't have live streams, man. They didn't have live streams. They didn't have live streams at all, and if they had them, they were crappy. And like we noticed, like, and then everybody stepped their game up after 2020. Everybody stepped their game up. Everybody decided we're gonna put.
Well, yeah, it was like an avalanche effect. It was like, oh, the church down the street's doing it, so we gotta set up our own one here now. So, so that's how it is. That's the current state of affairs. It's like there is a in-person service, but it's also available digitally most often, right? So if that's but it seems like you don't think that that's the optimal way for things.
No. In person is always better, man.
You think it's going to change back to becoming more in person?
Nobody wants to watch a concert live on YouTube. Nobody cares to do that.
Okay.
And I think it's the same kind of human connection we have when we go to church. Like you're going to see the live music. You're going to see the live pastor preach in front of you. Like, and as I said, there's moments that I've had with people that I didn't know were going to be in certain places, and I would have never had that moment with that person if I wasn't there. You might be missing out on your next spouse by sitting at home watching YouTube. Your next mate might be at the church, and you might end up running into you know what I'm saying? Like that people experiences that like we don't value that, man. We don't value that. Like you might meet your next girl or your next guy at church. You won't know if you're not going. If you stay at YouTube and watch it on YouTube every day, eating your pints of ice cream, you're not gonna know. You're not gonna know.
That's wild.
Bro. Your spouse could be at church in person.
When you say your spouse, you mean the one ordained by God for you could be in church.
Most likely, usually that's where you find them.
I mean, if that's the case,
usually that's where you find them.
If that's the case, doesn't that seem to imply that if they're for you, they're gonna find you no matter where you are?
Yeah, it could take way longer though.
Okay,
it could take way longer.
Okay, but so what? Like,
it could take way
what's
longer.
time to the Most High?
It could take way longer. If you're not finding them there, where are you gonna find them? There's no place you can guarantee to find them.
Exceedingly abundantly, wherever. It doesn't matter.
There's no place if you're not even guaranteed to find them after that.
If they in the plant, then never mind. So if that's so I guess my original question still kind of stands. Do you think that there's gonna be a move back to in person away from digital Adventism?
I mean, I hope so. I don't think the digital landscape is ever going to disappear. I don't want it to disappear.
No, but it hasn't been shrinking. It's been growing.
Oh, it's
That's
growing.
What I'm trying to say. It's on the up climb now.
Yeah, no, it's bigger than the actual thing that's happening in the church. A lot of people watch the live stream, but it blows my mind that people don't see the difference with watching church at home and going into church.
Well, I think they do see the difference, but they're choosing the convenience over the personability. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think there's a level of sacrifice that people have in that building that the people at home don't have. And I think there's a level of open-heartedness and just there's a certain type of person that still gets in their car to go to church.
Okay. Do you think that person is? Do you think that the number of people who do that is going to grow or diminish in the future?
Shrink. It's going to shrink. We all know that. It's
Why?
going to shrink. It's going to shrink because more people are watching it online. More people are watching it online. These are just facts. Like you could look at the numbers there and then go count the people in the church. There's more people that saw it on the internet than saw it in church.
Yeah.
Every Sabbath. It doesn't matter which church, where, when, like it's always going to be a bigger number online.
Well, then that seems to indicate that the online audience is growing, is becoming stronger.
And I'm going to be honest. I think the church is catered fully to the online audience. You know, I do think,
fully.
Well, no, okay, all right. Well, this is why I wouldn't say fully, is I think they need to, and this is where I think the online needs to step in and do something. I think they need to move, incentivize people to actually get out the house and come to the building.
They need to re-incentivize people to come back to the sanctuary.
People to come back to the sanctuary. I think that's where they're kind of dropping the ball. I think that's where the online ministry can use some help. Yeah,
I disagree with that.
So you feel like somebody can get everything they need by just sitting at home watching YouTube on church every day?
I can get everything I need, so that's my own personal opinion. Now,
but you feel like nobody at the church has anything for you there that they can give you?
I mean,
other than the pastor and the people that you're watching on the YouTube.
I don't necessarily go to church for the fellowship. You know, I go to church for the message. I go to church I go to church to be challenged on my beliefs. That's what I go to church for.
But you don't think maybe the pastor might not challenge.
But I'm in the minority on that one because I know for a fact that my mother goes to the church because she wants to feel the spirit. She gets the juice from the she gets juiced up from the praise and worship and all the extra stuff. Not me.
It's a people's service. It's a people's service, man. It's not made for you to watch at home by yourself. It's just not, man. I don't care what anybody says. And I'll do it, but I only do it to know where I should go to in person next. Believe it or not, I watch the online sermon so I can know, like, all right, yeah, I'm going to go there next week. You know what I'm saying? That's really the reason I scrub through the thing. I don't even watch the whole thing 90% of the time.
I don't think that's why people are watching digitally, though. It's because it's more convenient.
Yeah, and convenience speaks to a lot of people with accessibility issues, too.
So
there's people that might not have the health of the car.
What is the point of the Sabbath?
Well, yeah, all right. I think there's multiple elements to whatever, quote unquote, the point of the Sabbath. I think one of those elements is fellowship, yes. And I don't think you can achieve fellowship.
That's not what the book says.
No. Fellowship is definitely, you have to understand that you're going to see Christ through these people in the church. And
sure, but it doesn't have to be divine worship.
It doesn't have to be divine worship. You could find them at prayer meeting. You could go to church on Wednesday evening and find them there.
I mean, you can get that same fellowship from Sabbath lunch.
You can. You could go to lunch and nothing else, and still leave with as much of a optimism and message than you did at church during the service.
Now I'm thinking about this right now, man. Like I would much rather watch a sermon in the comfort of my own home with a group of people that we immediately have lunch afterwards. Honestly, I think I would get more fulfillment from that than I would from actually going to a actual sanctuary and then coming back and doing the same thing after, doing the same thing with an added transport time.
Yeah,
does that make sense? What I just said?
It's easier to argue convenience, but convenience is like the tip of the iceberg. All right, perfect example. We had an episode about outreach. There's no outreach without church in person. There's absolutely no outreach. Nobody's going and clicking on random YouTube videos and getting brought to the Lord.
You mean specifically divine worship?
No. I'm not talking about divine worship. I'm talking about any time people come into that building that we call the church.
But it doesn't have to be on Sabbath.
It had to be on Sabbath. And nobody said that. I didn't say it had to be on Sabbath. I mean, to be honest, a lot of these churches live stream other events that don't happen on Sabbath too. Some of these churches live stream their prayer meeting and et cetera, et cetera. Like there's a lot of churches that every time there's people in the building, they have a camera on.
So you don't have to be there on Sabbath.
No, you don't have, but you have to run into the people in the building. That's what the point I'm trying to make.
Sure, but it doesn't have to be on Sabbath.
No, it don't have to be on Sabbath.
So you could have an entire divine worship service with nobody in the pews, but you have a full prayer meeting, and it would accomplish the same thing.
Arguably, yeah, you could achieve the same results with a prayer meeting, but it doesn't. What do you like? What is this argument? Like, it doesn't have to be on Sabbath. Like,
no, but I'm saying, like, if you're gonna have what's
there's different ways to skin a cat. Yeah, you don't have to do it through divine hour.
You just have to be there. You just have to be in the church building somewhere with somebody.
People. You have to be with people, man.
But it doesn't have to be at the church. Is what I'm saying.
It doesn't have to be at the church, but like as I said, the fact of outreach doesn't exist without that building, though. People coming into that, what are they gonna come to your house and watch it on YouTube with you?
Yeah,
the stranger that you met, like you invite them to your house to come watch.
I mean, I'm not gonna invite no stranger to my house, but
it's a lot easier to invite them to church, right? Isn't it? Yeah,
right. So there is a point of that what you're talking about is like it's easier to invite a stranger to a church than it is to your own home. I agree with you there, but that doesn't mean that the power is in the church building. The power is in the fellowship, and you don't have to have the church to have the fellowship.
Yeah, but the fellowship happens in the building. We talked about this before.
I don't think so.
But yeah, well, you can't fit 200 people in here. Well, remember we talked about it. You can't fit 200 people in your house.
Okay,
so you need a building to scale that. That's what I'm saying.
Nuh-uh.
You need a building to scale
you don't.
that. You can't have churches you can have churches in somebody's house. No, you don't,
because the reach is bigger online.
Yeah, at some point you're going to need to scale up.
As a matter of fact, if we're talking about witnessing to people, it would be easier to say, "Hey, why don't you watch this YouTube thing?" rather than even saying them to go to the church. Does that make sense? What I just said?
It's not as effective, man. It's not as effective.
What?
It's not as effective, man. It's not as effective. As I said, there's a people element that you will never have if you're eliminating the people from the
right. But hold on. But your argument was
digital people don't.
Hold on. But your argument was you can't fit 200 people in your home.
Well, that's why there's a church building. Yeah.
Right. But you could. But you reach more people by telling those people about the YouTube service than you do even in the church.
And yeah, and you could easily send somebody a link like today, be like, "Hey, check this sermon from last week."
Right.
Whatever, like, and they could watch it and say, "Oh yeah, that was a good sermon." Like that. But that's, I think, what the more powerful thing is with YouTube. To be honest with you, I don't think YouTube is more about the live. I think it's about rewatching it and going back and seeing things that you've missed. Let's say you're sick, you can't go to church, et cetera, et cetera. I think YouTube is more powerful in that it's there forever. Is you can literally go and watch sermons from 3 years ago, and like it happened today. I think that is more powerful of what we're seeing in YouTube than actually live streaming it. I don't think the live stream is where the influence is happening. I think it's somebody seeing something live and being like, "Man, that's a good message. I wish such and such was here," and sending it to them, the link to them, and them watching it. I think that's more powerful than the actual live event of it being broadcast on YouTube. Because the fact is, remember, think about it. If you heard a good sermon back in the day, you just had to be there. You just had to be there. You know what I'm saying? True. Think about if you heard a good sermon in 2018. Like, if you wasn't in there, you missed it. That's it.
Okay.
And you could try to summarize it for somebody, but ain't nobody really won't be able to tell you exactly what this pastor said. You know what I'm saying? So I think YouTube is powerful in that you can play that back. I think that's the best reason.
Share. It's easier to share the message.
Yeah, play it back and share. I think that is more of the ministry that I'm supporting online YouTube than actually the live stream where people are not going to church and just watching it on live at their house. I think the impact of it being solidified on the internet is serving us purposes that we didn't have 5-6 years ago. 6-7 years ago, whatever.
And I'll agree with you there, but I don't necessarily agree that I don't necessarily agree that you lose the in-person fellowship by watching it online, because you can assemble a congregation in your own home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And get the same thing.
You can, yeah.
So if that's the case, then I'm gonna ask this question again. What's the point of the actual building?
Man, look, we're not gonna. The building is the most important part of the church. Like the word church is literally the description of the building.
Why? The reach is greater online, and you can get the same fellowship in your own home. Why do you need the church?
You're having 3 or 4 people that you know coming to your house.
Okay, fine.
Okay, you're not meeting somebody off the street that you didn't know was going to be in a church at your house. You're not meeting that person.
I mean,
you're not meeting that person.
No, but I can share to that person the YouTube channel, and
they
still get it.
You never met him. You never went to church. You never got to meet him. You don't even that never happened. You don't know who that person is. It didn't expand your network as far as people that are interested in God. And
but you would invite that person to the church.
You don't know him. You have no idea.
But you would invite that person to the church.
Yeah, if you met him maybe at the supermarket or something, you invite him to the church or whatever. But like you have to know that person first. Is what I'm saying. You have to meet the person first.
Right, but if I'm gonna know that person and I'm gonna meet that person, the same person who I would invite to the church, it would be easier for me to share the link with the YouTube link of the church than it would be to invite them to the actual building.
But you gotta know them first. Let's say this person's visiting from Vegas and they come to Miami. They're only here one weekend. They decide they want to go to church and they're going back to Vegas like Sunday, the next day. Like you're not gonna meet them. You weren't in the building with them. You don't even know they exist. I'm just saying, there's so many uncalculable
What's the point of the church? Let me ask you, because I'm coming back to this.
The church is for human fellowship. It's for human connection.
You can get that without the church.
Nah, but there's a specific set of people that are in this building that you're not gonna find outside that building.
Who?
And it's arguably the most important part of that building is housing these children of God.
These are people that you know, right?
Not all of them. You don't know all of them.
So who are they?
People that have common interests in mutual morals, and they have a common interest in trying to find out the furtherance of the message. And
do you know them?
You don't know them. You might not know half of them. You know everybody in your church? No. You don't know who's gonna be in this building. Then it's a safe place to come with a certain type of thinking. And I don't have to break down what a church is, but if you come to church, we've all agreed that we want to know more about God. We want to know more about the message. We want to know more about what moves people spiritually. And we're all here for a common reason, and because of that, you're going to find common ground, and you're going to meet people at the church. Have you ever gone to a church in another state outside of your own?
Oh yeah.
Like just random, like you've been there for a weekend, and you actually said, "Hey, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna go to this church I've never been to."
No, I don't do that. No, I don't do that.
I did it my whole childhood.
But I have done that. But I have done that before. But I don't usually do that because I don't typically like to go there. I like my own church. That's why I go there. No, but my point is that like you can get those same people who are going to the actual church building. They get those same the people that have those objectives also have those same objectives if they watch the service digitally. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, and it doesn't seem like you agree. To touch their neighbor. They don't have an option to say, "Hey, neighbor." They don't have that. They don't have an option for when church lets out to be like, "Oh, hey, like your dress."
You can if you assemble that group in your home.
You know the people in your home. You don't know the people at the church. Is what I'm trying to tell you. Like you can't. There's an unknown factor when you go to church. You don't know who you're gonna run into, and I think we don't value that enough. We don't value the fact that you're able to meet people with kindred spirits at church in a building that you can't meet in your living room, even if you invite them. You don't know them. Okay. You can't invite them. You don't know them. Right. Like there's an unknown factor at the church in the building that we can't replicate in the house.
Yeah, but I don't think that's real important.
You can't replicate it in the house.
You value that factor more than I do.
Yeah, clearly, there's a people factor that I think a lot of people don't value, that I always valued in my life. Because I think that like the most important thing we have on this planet is human connection at some point.
So what do you think is going to happen?
No, and I think the YouTube is eliminating human connection in a lot of spaces.
Okay, so what do you think is going to happen?
The human connection has to be reconnected. Literally, nature will reconnect it if we don't.
Nature will force people to go back to the church.
It's funny because a lot of people have still nature happened and it forced people to not go to the church because of COVID. And then now people are slowly trying, and it's kind of crazy because we're seeing people like our grandmother, like, people that used to live in this building. We're seeing them not coming back to church because they realized it was a lot more convenient, a lot easier. But these people, all of their friends that they ever had. I was talking to a good buddy of mine, 20, bro, and his like grandmother used to like live in this church, man. I mean, she used to be there all day, every day, prayer meeting, like Saturday, Sunday, you name it, she was there. And COVID happened, and she wasn't as healthy, and so she thought it was just a lot more convenient, a lot easier to just stay at home and watch it online. Mm-hmm. And And he was mad at her. He was like, yo, go to church. What are you doing? Yo, you're like, it is true. He was telling her the truth. Like, all your friends are there. Like, everybody that you've known for the last 20 years of your life are in this building. And you're telling me you're just not going to bother because it's easier to stay at home and watch it online? Like, yeah. No. There's a level of human connection that I don't think we realize we need. I was just talking about this with my mother the other day.
Right, but you don't have to get that at the church. That's what I'm saying.
No, nobody's saying the church is mandatory for it. But a lot of the time, the church is one of those places where it's really easy to come by. You have a lot of people that are there for.
Sounds like you argue with convenience, bro.
No, but because YouTube's still more convenient. YouTube's still more convenient. But you got to understand. Like, I don't think people value the effect of putting yourself in a room with people that may have similar interests as you.
Right, but that room doesn't have to be at the church. It doesn't
have to be the church, but it can be the church. And there's so many different churches that I'm a big fan of church, right? Going into the building and talking to the people.
Yeah, sure.
I went back to Indiana like a couple months ago just for a random like 2-day trip. I don't know what. I had a buddy, he wanted to fly out there. We went out there. I went to church. I haven't been to this church in at least 6 years. I don't know anybody in the congregation at this point. And I had a couple hours. I was literally there for 2 days, and I said, I want to go to church. And I brought a church outfit with me. I can't make this up. I was there for 2 days, and I was moving everywhere with my carry-on, like, right? And so I walk in this church lobby with a carry-on bag, right, on wheels, and I can't replicate what happened after that. Like, the lady was just like, nicest lady at the front desk, right? Like, gave me a little brochure, like, oh, you seem like you're a traveler. I said, yep. And she said, do you want me to hold the bag for you behind the counter till the end of service? I said, yeah. Oh, yeah, thank you so much. Gave her the bag. And then we got into this really deep conversation. I didn't even make it inside the sanctuary, dog. We got into this really deep conversation. I think I just asked her where she was from. And then, we got into this thing. And they asked me where I was coming from. And I told them I was from Miami, et cetera, et cetera. Got into this really deep conversation about, like, Bible prophecy and not prophecy, but just like, the state of the church and just like we got into this. I didn't even make it in the church, bro. So I'm talking to this lady. Another lady comes out and I'm in the lobby this whole time. Like, I don't know. And that's why I realized fellowship is the main reason I go to church, because I know I'm not the only one that's planned to go inside of a church building and got into the parking lot and got in a conversation with somebody and never made it inside. Like that happens to me on a regular basis, bro. Like, on a regular basis, that happens to me. I get into the church, and I'm like, yeah, I have all intentions to go inside and get the message, and I get the message from somebody in the parking lot. It happens to me all the time. And I think people don't like, it's making me mad the older I get that people don't value human connection, man. And I think that human connection, I never made it in the church that day in Indiana. I never made it. And in the lobby, before I even made it in the church, the lady invited me to come to Sabbath lunch. I think luckily they ended up having Sabbath lunch at the church. So I was like, oh, no, I'm good. I'll stay. But I had an opportunity to go in this lady's home that I met 3 hours before. I known the lady for maybe 2 hours, and she's inviting me to her home. That kind of interaction is not something you can get on YouTube in your living room. You just can't get it. You can't get it at the house. And I've seen so many experiences like that I refuse to not go into that building. I have to go into that building. Because that's where the experiences and the heart that Christ has put in us, you see it through the people in this building. And it's a beautiful thing that you have to be there to experience. I can't tell you what you're going to see. I don't know what you're going to see. I can't tell you who you're going to meet. I don't know who you're going to meet. But they're there. They're in there. And you have to go in there to meet them.
They're in the building.
And there's no way to dodge it. You have to go in that building to meet them. That's it. You have to go in there. And I'm passionate about this. Yeah. People are like, yeah, I'm passionate about this. Because people are like, yo, I don't know why you even bother to go to church anymore. I'm like, bro, you got to be in there, man. You got to be in there.
And it seems like you think that more people are going. So congregation numbers will be increasing in the future.
No, they're going to decrease. Of course. They're going to decrease.
Why?
No, because people don't value it like the way I do it. Like I'm telling you right now, people don't value it. People value convenience. They value, being able to pull it up whenever. They don't want to wake up at 8 and 9 and try to find church clothes and iron stuff and pack whatever kids in the car and drive somewhere. And they don't want to do all that. It's
definitely a production.
They don't want to do all that. Nobody wants to do that anymore. But we're losing recipes because of that. We're losing recipes. The church was a bigger purpose. It was a community purpose. It was part of this village that I think we forgot about. It's like my entire childhood was around people that I would consider second mothers and fathers to me, and they were all in that building. Man. So I think we need to get back to it, and there's no way around it. There's no hip scotching around it. Like, you gotta go in that building, man. That's it. That's it. I don't see any other way. People are like, well, we could do it some other way. No, there's no other way to do it. You have to go in the building. Have to.
You need the building.
There's no way to go. There's no way to do it without that church building. That's it. They call it the Fellowship Hall. They call it the Fellowship Hall. That's the name of the place. Okay. And every church has one. It's funny because I don't know if other churches have it, but in the Adventist community, we have this room. It's a big ballroom. You know, we throw events in there, whatever. It's called the Fellowship Hall. Okay. Look at the name of that room, right? And a lot of the time when these churches have lunches after church. Oh, and that's another thing too. A lot of these churches have lunch after church. So a lot of the time it doesn't end at the sermon. You know, they dismiss and you go to this Fellowship Hall and you will have lunch. You have lunch. You fellowship for as long as you want. And a lot of the time back in the day, this fellowship would lead all the way down to something we call AY, Adventist Youth, which would be a program that we had exactly for the youth at maybe 5, 6 p.m. And usually that program will go till night. So it used to be a thing where you got up for church at 10 in the morning and got to church by 11, and you stayed to church sometimes till 11 p.m. Sometimes you were at church from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., depending on what kind of activities they had at the church. We don't really have that kind of culture now anymore. We don't have that culture anymore.
Well, I mean, churches didn't. The building that you're talking about is an evolution of how churches were. It's like, because it's not, that's not how churches didn't start as buildings with sanctuaries. They started with 3 or 4 people in their own homes.
Yeah, with 3 or 4 people gathered, right? But there's a level of scale that needs to be achieved when you're trying to reach a certain amount of people. You know, there's a level of scale that
the reach is if you're talking about reach, the church cannot.
Yeah, the church has to be in the center of a community. It can't be in somebody's house.
But if we're talking about reach, it's bigger online.
Yeah, of course, it reaches people online. So of course, it touches people online.
So then, goodness gracious. So how do I say this? If the purpose of the church is reach, there's the greater reach is online. That's undeniable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we all know that.
And in addition, the building now that houses the sanctuary, okay, is an evolution of smaller groups meeting in their own homes. That's literally how they did it in the Bible.
Yeah, that's how the church came to be. Some people met in their house first.
And so for me, the building isn't necessary because you can, like, so I asked you a question. Where do you think it's going to go? And the way I think it's going to go is churches are going to move further and further towards digital media, and people are going to begin gathering in their own homes, which I think is kind of a better way to do it because it's more conducive to being challenged. Yeah, it's more conducive to challenges.
But you know those people. The people you're gonna invite in your own home, you know them. You have their number. You call them. You tell them to come.
Okay.
That the problem with that is that maybe if they bring a guest, maybe that might be a way to do it. If everybody brings a guest, but there's strangers in this building and that we call the church that you're gonna be able to minister to. That if I call you and the homies to come to my house, it's not the same. It's just not the same. Like that church building is made to draw people that didn't know about it. Nobody coming to your house.
You can get that online.
Nobody coming to your house though.
But what I'm saying is that drawing people that you don't know is easier online.
Who's gonna want to watch a 3-hour live stream of a church that they never been to?
The same person.
You send me a link of a 3-hour live stream, my boy. You think I'm gonna watch that?
The same person who would attend the church if you invited them to the sanctuary. That's the person.
Yeah, but then why don't you just invite them to the church then? Why are you sending them a link?
Because it's easier.
They might meet. I think y'all gonna keep forgetting. You might meet your spouse at this church, and I think if that's the only reason you go to church,
that's a fear tactic. Bro.
No, ain't no fear tactic.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
What?
Because what
am I scaring you about?
What you're saying is if you don't come to church, you won't meet your spouse.
No, well, how you gonna meet him if you ain't there? How you gonna meet him if you're not there?
If is that, I'm gonna ask you this question.
Where you gonna run into them?
The same, wherever I am. Wherever I am, especially if she's for me, it doesn't matter where I am. because the Most High will put her in my path. That's saying, the whole point.
It's important to be connected with like-minded individuals.
Yeah, but you don't have to.
You don't have to. You don't have to. But I think it's the most effective option.
I disagree. I disagree because it's the reach isn't. It's not more effective because the reach isn't bigger. That's online, and the fellowship is better if it's with people you know in your own home. So I'm not sure where it's better if both of the things that you're arguing that it's better for are better in different avenues.
Fellowshipping with strangers is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about people you know. Nobody cares about people you know. You know them. That's done. Like nobody. We got your mom, your brother, your whatever, your college friend. Like we know these people, man. Like I'm talking about the guy on the street that needs that word that you're hoarding in your house. Like
that person ain't good. I'm not going to invite that person to church.
Yeah, you would. That's what you're supposed to do.
You expect that person on the street the stranger on the street that you know to come to church.
That's what you're supposed to do. Look, back in my day, they used to go pick up people. A lot of people that had cars and stuff back in them days in the 80s or whatever. The pastor from my church, I didn't know this story till recent, by the way. He used to pack up about 10 people in his car and drive them to church himself. He used to come to their door at 9, 10 in the morning and, hey, you ready? And then all they'd have to do was get in the car. And he'd take them back home and whatever.
We did that back in the day. Where we would bring people to church. Yeah, sure. Yeah, but now we ain't got to do that because we don't go to church. We just text them the link to. Hey, listen, here's the link. We're gonna be watching it together. You can tune in wherever you are, wherever you are.
You're missing that human element, man. You're missing that human element, man. The human element is something that I'm actually scared about it because COVID made it so that people didn't like. You used to kind of have to have that human element, but now COVID made it to the point where
you don't need it anymore.
No, not even you don't need it. There's not even an option. There's an option to never use it. You never have to use that human element.
Don't need it.
You never really have to talk to anybody.
Don't need it. We thought we needed it, but we don't.
Nah, we do. But
well, yeah. I'll say this: you definitely gain something by having a human element, but you don't need it. You don't need the church building to do it. That's my argument. That's my argument.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I don't think you need the church building to do it.
Especially now.
I've just seen how effective the church building is at doing it. And
Digital SDAs. Yeah, that's what it is, bro. Yes, I mean, I attend YouTube SDA, and
I'm a church maniac because I'll be driving to church, watching YouTube in my car on the way to church. Like not even the church I'm going to. I'll be watching other churches driving on the way to the one church that I'm going to in person.
Bro.
And then after church, I'll even go and I'll pull up other churches from that day. Like I fully believe in the power of the church to change
the building.
Yeah, I believe in the power of that building in order to change people that would have never changed otherwise. So man,
I don't think the building's necessary. Yeah. That's what it almost seems as if it's a especially now with the advent of Digital Seventh-Day Adventism, it almost seems like a hindrance more often than it is helping. But I mean, it's like, what's the purpose? If the purpose of the building is to reach the community, that's better online, and sure you missed something, but like it's a quantity versus quality argument. It seems like what you're making, and that's okay. I can understand that, but I'm good. I'm good being YouTube SDA.
Hey, and I know most people are. I know most people are going on YouTube and watching sermons, but I'm just letting y'all know. And I mean, and people that were raised in the Seventh-Day Adventist religion, like I don't understand how people forget where they've come from. They forget that they're, like I know a lot of people whose main network is Adventist people, and it's like, where'd you find them? You know what I'm saying? Like, where'd you even meet them? Like, you would have never met them at home watching YouTube, So there's a lot of beautiful people in the world, and I believe that most of the world is beautiful people, and I think people don't have that same belief, so they don't want to even go look for them. They don't want to even go look for them. So I think most of the world has beautiful people in it.
Yeah, but you're gonna meet them regardless, no matter where you go.
Either way, you're gonna have to leave your house.
Well, that I agree. You definitely should leave your house, but I don't think it has to be on Sabbath.
It doesn't have to be on Sabbath, but there's a lot of beautiful people in that building. There's a lot of beautiful people in that church, and that's how it's supposed to be. The church is supposed to house those people. So, as I said, I told you this story about the lady in Indiana. Man, it just like invited me to her house. I only knew her for 2 hours. And so that's the kind of interaction you get when you go in those buildings, and you can't predict it. You don't know what's gonna happen when you get there. So, But yeah, man, digital SDAs.
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing,
and it's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere. It's only gonna get bigger, and I know that. I just want there to be a balance. That's all. I'm not fighting the digital version of it. As I said, I think it's more powerful after the fact.
It just seems unbalanced to you.
I just don't. I think the people that used to go to church and do it religiously are not. They're just on YouTube now, and I think that's not a balance. I don't think that's a balance to what we call the human experience.
I suppose time will tell, huh?
Yeah, I think so. Because we're definitely going to be doing it more in the future. There's no way. There's no fighting.
Going back.
I already know there's no going back. I know there's no going back. Yeah, and so, yeah, man.
It's a relic of a bygone era.
Yeah. Where can they find you, brother?
Legend of Andrew on Instagram. That's where I spend most of my time. So that's where you can find me. What about you?
MB.J on Instagram. Yep, find me there, and you can find me in person too if you want.
That's right. If you go you can find him in the actual sanctuary. You'll find him.
Too. You want to find me in person? Let me know.